I'm just going to drive. Welcome back to another Overfueled YouTube video. Today we're in the Audi S1 and I'm going to talk to you about my likes and dislikes about the car. So just to give you an insight on owning an Audi S1, if you're considering buying one, want to know some information about it. Obviously I've owned the car for nearly 5 years now, so I think I have a pretty good idea of what's good and what's bad for myself personally. First off, we'll start with the power to weight ratio of the car. I think we can all agree that this is a very big selling point for an Audi S1. You've got a tiny little car with huge amounts of power and huge amounts of potential to gain power through mapping it, other modifications, all sorts. There's so much potential for this car. So from standard, the power is 231 brakes with 370 newtons of torque. So overall, it's a very fast car. Off the line, it's a 0 to, be precise, 0 to 62 in 5.8 seconds. So it's quick. It is very quick. No? Ooh, interesting. That looks like a police car. So along with the 231 brake, the weight of the car is 1300 kg. So very light, very fast, which is a win-win for a lot of people. If you want a fast car that's quite small, this is the way to go. And for the money that they're currently sitting at as well, you're getting a lot of car for the price, which is a no-brainer really. So the next pro on my list was that these are manual. So these don't come in an automatic, and I'll explain why. So obviously the size of the car is a massive factor in why they're manual. You've got a 2-litre engine in the front of a tiny little car, so that's a squeeze in itself, and adding a DSG gearbox is just not possible. It's too big. That's one reason. There's not enough room in the engine bay. Second reason is that it would have added another 25 kilograms into the front axle of the car, which is far too much for the front end to handle. So it would have just broken. It wouldn't have handled right. For that reason, they didn't put in. So these only come in manual, which I think is a really good way for them to have gone. So another thing I think is a good thing about the S1 is the quality of the interior overall. The build of the outside is okay, engine not so much, but we'll go into that a bit more in a minute. It's very refined, the interior, I'd say. For such a small car, and obviously the price of it, again, you're getting a lot of car for not a lot of money in comparison to other things like the Audi RS. They're in like the 30s at the moment. C classes, Audi TT. So an S line in an Audi TT is 20 grand and up at the moment as well. So if you want a quick car that's a good quality, then this probably is one of the cars to look at. Obviously the mechanical side of it is a different issue, and we'll go into that. When you are looking for an S1, you can get a lot of optional extras for the interior, which I explained in the previous video anyway. So obviously like the flat bottom steering wheel, you can get a different gear knob, the seats are different, you get heated seats, you can get leather seats, you can get a sports back seat and just normal seats as well. So obviously these are sports back, leather and heated, and once you have a heated seat you don't want to go back. And there's a massive brake puddle here, which is great. Volvo's going to have no issue going through that. Nope, straight through. So I can't really speak too much because obviously I haven't had a lot of experience driving loads of different cars, but for me the interior is more or less perfect for a daily car driving around. It's not too in your face. All of the comforts that you would want in a daily car are there. So obviously again with the heated seats, it comes with an optional extra of having cruise control as well. I've seen videos before with people reviewing the car and saying that the interior is disgusting, it's plasticky, it's scratchy. I don't think it is. I think the dashboard it's not plasticky at all. It doesn't feel cheap, it feels refined. The leather in this is very well looked after. The stitching as well is just, it's the little details in cars that I think I pick up on most. Oh, did I just crash? I think I've just whacked my splitter. Yeah, it's all the little details that I pick up on in the interiors of cars. So like the dials, it's all a nice red colour. You can change the ambience of the lights as well, so you can either have them bright or you can have them low. Like, it's the little things. You get the little lights in the handles, in the footwell. And when you open the door as well, you've got the little puddle lights, which I think is like, it's all the little touches that they've put in, I think puts it all together, and it just makes it a lot nicer, and it's just a higher quality, I think. Another thing as well, so obviously I've mentioned the power to weight ratio, I've mentioned the manual gearbox. Another good thing for me as well, and a massive selling point as to why I got this car, was that it's four-wheel drive. So altogether, you've got a 2-litre engine that's got 200 brake from standard. It's four-wheel drive and it weighs next to nothing, and it's a manual. Like, you'd be silly to not be even slightly interested in this. It's amazing. The handling is just unbelievable. It's so direct going into corners. Obviously the four-wheel drive helps as well. So the four-wheel drive has 3 different modes in the car. So you've got dynamic, economic and auto mode. So the majority of the time the S1 has got 60-40 ratio front and back, and then when it really needs it, it will put 50-50 in both. So obviously when you put your foot down in the dynamic mode, the response is a lot quicker, and obviously the four-wheel drive as well, like it all kicks in together and it's just unbelievable to drive. So yeah, I think the four-wheel drive makes the handling feel amazing, like going around corners, flooring it up, straight roads, just any road. I feel so confident driving it that it's not going to slip all over the place, like even in the snow. I can't drift in the snow, I'm not going to lie. I tried it once, I nearly crashed into a curb, and I haven't tried it again since, so maybe one day I'll try it again. First time I ever saw an Audi S1 was actually at Early Edition. We were sat watching all the cars leave, and this bright yellow S1 pulled out and ragged it, completely annihilated everything as it was pulling away. It just flew. And I was like, oh my God, that is the car, that's what I'm gonna have next. Since then, I've just fallen in love with the car, really. Another pro of the S1 as well is the easiness of the car to be able to drive. Again, like I've mentioned, that the handling's amazing. It's such an easy car to drive. The steering is so light. When I first test drove it, that was one of the first things that I noticed about it, is how light the steering actually is. You can't go wrong with it, really. So I've talked very nicely about the car so far. We're now going to go on to the cons of the S1 in general. One of the massive points for me, the negative points I think, is the reliability of the engine. And it's the same with all VAG cars as well. So you've got the Polo GTI, Golf R, the S3s, they're all the same, they've all got similar issues. It's the type of engine that Audi make, it's the TSFI engine, they've all got similar issues. There's a lot of common issues with the car that a lot of people will have with the S1. For me, noticeably, a lot of people have had issues with the coolant. So if you are noticing that you're having to fill your coolant up more regularly, the likelihood is you have got a crack or a leak in the thermostat housing. So this is just, it's plastic. It's plastic housing that is part of the water pump, hence why that cracks. You have to be very careful with the coolant system. Audis are very sensitive. You need to have the right coolant in it. I had the issue with the water pump going. I've had the thermostat housing go, that crack, and water pump as well. So first off, the housing went and then the pump went as well. So they've both been replaced with AUDI genuine parts. But yeah, that's just something to look out for with not just S1s, with most Audis anyways. It's just basic intuition, I think, for you to just do your research into the common issues with it for buying a car, because especially with the Audi brand, it gets very expensive. Another tip or thing to look out for with the coolant as well is the expansion tank in the engine bay. They have a little bag in the tank, and they can sometimes break, so that then makes the bottle turn like a brown colour, and it's very difficult to be able to then see how much coolant you've got in the car. So that's just another thing to keep an eye on as well. I think that has then something to do with the thermostat housing cracking as well. I didn't mention in the previous video, I have actually had the clutch uprated as well. So I've got the Satch sintered clutch rather than the standard clutch, because the clutches on this are not the most reliable. Within the first 2 months actually of owning my car, I had to send it back to Audi because I was having issues with the clutch. I could hear the noise. There was a knocking noise coming from the clutch when I was idling. When I compressed the clutch, the knocking went away. So I was like, right, well, this isn't normal. It's going back to Audi. And it turns out that the flywheel had gone. So that then got replaced. As previously mentioned, I tend to do everything on my car myself. Well, I say I do myself, my dad helps me as well. That being said, I have then found out that these cars are not easy to work on. Because it's such a big engine, crammed in such a tiny engine bay, it's very hard to get to certain bits. Yeah, it's just a faff to try and work on, really, as I'm sure most cars are. It's just how much they've tried to cram into such a small car that I think makes it the issue. As well, with it being a faff to work on, it's also expensive as well, as you've got the Audi name to it, so it is going to be expensive to get parts for it that are actual Audi genuine parts or VAG genuine parts. But I think the upside is that because this shares so many components with other cars, it's mainly similar to the Polo GTI, so I think it is easier in a way for you to be able to get parts. As long as you have the parts number, you should be alright. Another con I would say as well, again with the mechanical side of it, is the standard brakes that you do get on an S1. They're not the best. They fade very easily as well when they get hot. They're very quick to fade. You'd want to upgrade them if you get an S1 basically. One of the other negatives about my specific car, because of the exhaust system that I've got on it, and obviously the straight through thing, and it's a 4-cylinder, so it's kind of hard to make sound nice anyway. So my issue with mine is that it's now too raspy for my liking. It's very loud. Anyone that's seen my car in person, has been out driving with me, will say the exact same thing. When we go through a tunnel, they're like, oh my God, it's deafening. I didn't agree at first, because obviously you're inside the car, you don't actually realise how loud the car is. Having had other people drive it, yeah, it's loud and it's very tinny, I'd say. Not tinny, it's just raspy is the tone that I'm going for. It's not what you want a sports Audi to sound like. So going back to the reliability side, I thought I'll just list off the common faults that seem to occur. We've got the water pump that I've mentioned. The clutch is a common fault that seems to go a lot for people. The CV joint as well is another big thing that I see a lot of people having to replace. I think that's more tuned S1s that have that issue than standard from what I've seen. And the dog bone mount as well, so the engine mount, the joints and that break away. So obviously then the engine knocks quite a lot. You'll notice it when you're coming to a stop, you put the clutch in, there'll be like a knocking noise, which is normally the dog bone mount. It's an easy fix, it's minor, that's not a massive issue. Another thing that I haven't mentioned as well is obviously the way that this car is four-wheel drive is through the AUDI system. So the more you floor it, the harder it works, and you do need to put your foot down from time to time to get this to work properly. So there's a little filter in it that needs servicing about every 12,000 or 10,000 miles, depending on how you drive it, but it does collect a lot of like deposits, so it does need to be serviced quite often as well, which not a lot of people are aware of. If it's not looked after properly, then that can go. So yeah, that's my opinion on the Audi S1, the pros and the cons of it. If there's anything I've missed, let me know down in the comments below. Would I, now knowing everything about the car, buy it again? Probably. And if I sold it, I probably would miss it and want to get another one at some point in my life. As much as there are issues with the car, I do really, really love it. There is just something about it that I can't explain when driving. It's the absolute bane of my life, but I still love it. And with all that being said, that is it for me and this video. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up, comment anything you want to see in the future, anything that you want to comment about this video, let me know. Feedback is always welcome. You can message us on Instagram as well, which is just Overfueled on Instagram. And yeah, look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for watching. I'm just not cut out for YouTube videos. Oh, so crackly. Where are all these Porsches coming from? I need to learn how to breathe when I'm talking more. An impatient Tesla up here that can't drive. Well done. And they can't drive either. Fucking days. One of them's gonna crash. Oh my god! You're welcome. I hate people that don't say thank you. It drives me mad. Manners cost nothing, as parents and grandparents would say. Massively with that. Always forget about that bit. I don't know what I was going to say.